Hello, denizens of the internet. I've been told to make another video for no one to see, just because I want to, I guess. Um, so recently, Limited Run Games has made a video, basically an announcement and assortment of upcoming projects and stuff. Basically, kind of like a Nintendo Direct for this company. That's the closest thing I can think of to it. Now, you might know Limited Run for, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, I have never heard of this company before this very moment, at least not that I know of. However, this presentation got me very hyped because a lot of very cool things seem to be in the pipes. A lot of cool things seem to be coming down. A lot of cool projects, a lot of cool people, and I want to make a video about that because it's there's not that much people talking about it, even though it looks like it could be like really really good for the gaming industry right now. Maybe not as far as like an entire change up, but as a lot of people know, the video game industry has been kind of, I don't want to say garbage right now because a lot of people disagree with me. But I do feel that a very much more mainstream portion of video games recently have been disappointing. And as everyone knows, this year E3 decided not to happen. They just said nope because none of the big boys like Xbox or PlayStation had anything to show there, so they just shut their doors completely. And that was the first time that I believe that's ever happened in the entire history of E3. And that is crazy. I don't think people realize how mind boggling that is. Like, I mean, you guys have to realize E3 has been going on for nearly 3 decades now. So for it to decide not to do it this year is not only unheard of, but also extremely interesting. I was upset when I first heard this, but to be honest, I don't think anything good was going to be announced there anyways. And I just think that really goes to show that a lot of companies um, seem to just not know what to do for games. At least that's the way it came across for me. Like, of course, you can't announce something every year. That's understandable. Xbox might have a lot of big projects that take years to develop. And so this came out, and this one makes a claim to save E3 and to bring 2023 their own E3. So this guy, I think he's like the CEO of Limited Run. Don't quote me on that. Goes back in time to the very first E3, and for the very first E3, he says that if they play their codes correctly, that there will be a 2023 E3, and all they have to do is make some cool announcements to get people hyped. And of course, time traveling happens all the time in the game industry. But these announcements, man, they are just so good, and they're just a lot of fun. Um, I might cut this video weird, like this might not be one long take because I might forget everything that happened and have to go back and see. But basically, I'm not gonna be talking about everything that happened in this because, of course, I have opinions. I have likes. I have dislikes. I have a taste for the kind of games I like to play. And so, if I don't talk about something, that doesn't mean that it's not important or wasn't a big part of this huge announcement. I don't know how to put it. This huge whatever. Let's just say it's E3. But I don't I am not interested in everything that this game has announced. That doesn't mean that those games are bad or that I dislike them. It just means that they might not be meeting my personal taste and what I think is important for the video game industry right now. And I think that this has got me pumped in a lot of ways. So I'm going to be talking about all the stuff I think is important. And again, just because I don't cover something doesn't mean it's not important. It just means I didn't think my own opinion, my taste in games and in storytelling just might not be the same as yours, and that's okay. We might not like the same thing, and that's fine. We don't have to agree on what we like. We can just respect each other's opinions and let it be that. So I'm gonna be talking about the stuff that I really liked, but I'm not gonna be talking about every little thing that happened here. I'm still gonna be going over quite a lot though. This is probably gonna be a very long video. Gonna take a while to edit. Yes, I know. I edit really shittily, but it still takes a long time to do. But I am really excited to just jump into this because so much interesting stuff is happening here. Uh, I'm really pumped. I haven't been this pumped from any sort of like game announcement, Switch Direct, since like God, I can't even remember, dude. It really is. This looks like a lot of fun, and I just want to dive into it because honestly, I'm pretty sure that like half these games are gonna go on my playlist. My watch list. Sorry, and I'm gonna blow like 5 paychecks worth of money on them. But of course, you guys also have to realize that I'm gonna be talking about this, and if you for some reason stumble across this video somehow, I don't know how you would do it. Like, honestly, I get like 24 views on every video. That's not very good. But if you somehow come across this video and haven't watched the original one, I'm gonna link it down below. I heavily implore you to watch it itself. It's just a lot of fun. It really is. And we got no E3 this year. This is probably the closest one to get to it. So if I were you, I'd go watch it if you haven't already. I'll link it down below, and we're just gonna jump into it. So I'm gonna make a quick cut here and talk about what I want to talk about, and let's just get this started. I mean, this is a long ass intro, so let's just jump into this. So the first one of these bullet points I want to talk about that popped up in this is this game that they seem to be making an HD remaster of, as almost like kind of like a collection of info about it. A game called Karateka, which came out first for the Apple II back in 1984. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I know a lot about the development history of video games, but I've never heard of Karateka before. And so naturally, you might be wondering, well then, why are you talking about this if you have no experience with the game? Well, during this short little section, they talk about what makes Karateka interesting. They talked about something I just really love, which is rotoscoping. Now, for those of you who don't know, rotoscoping is a technique, I guess, of taking a video of someone moving, breaking that video down into frames, and then drawing over those frames. You basically create an animation from real motion, and the ending result can be anything from eerie, creepy, to just flat out cool. There's a lot of techniques for it. And rotoscoping is one of my favorite techniques in animation. It's not done as often as I think it should be. And for me to find out that there was a video game back on the Apple II computer that implemented a form of rotoscoping is fascinating to me. I love rotoscoping. It is such a cool thing, and it is really, really, really neat. And so to find out that all the way back in the 80s on home-released computers, this is not like for the NES or anything, even though the time would match up. Only for PC releases, there was a fighting game based on karate, which used a form of rotoscoping for its animations. It's really cool to me. That's really neat. I've taken some martial art classes myself, mainly Aikido and Taekwondo. That doesn't make me an expert. I don't know why I brought that up. It doesn't really matter. But just something about the history of video games to me is fascinating. And so to find out that there was this game in the 80s that implemented a form of rotoscoping is really neat. They also talk about how they went about and created a soundtrack, and it's really cool. Again, I'm not going to talk about too much here because I don't want this video to be too long, but please, for the love of God, go check it out. It's so neat and cool. So that's the first thing I want to talk about right now is Karateka. It's a very cool looking game. I'm certainly going to be picking it up. I've never heard of it before, but honestly, most games back then, they didn't really have that much to them, and I think that's what makes it so interesting. Like Super Mario Bros. Released in 1985, it was like so influential in the platforming genre and really shaped how that 2D platformer genre would be going forward. And it really set like this precedence and what a good 2D platformer should be. And stuff like that is super interesting because it so clearly defines that. But the thing about Super Mario Bros., as great of a game as it is that its development history, while fascinating, is just kind of like how you'd expect a video game to be developed back then. And there's nothing wrong with that. I still think it's really cool. But like, I don't know. This sounds like I'm kind of like shitting on the original Super Mario Bros. Game, which I'm not. I love it. I don't even know why I brought it up. I guess what I'm trying to say is something I always love is when video games try to do something different. And back in the 80s, that was a really big deal because similar gameplay experiences weren't always the best thing. You wanted to make a unique game so that more people would play it and check it out. And I guess what I'm trying to say is Karateka looks like a very, very interesting game. And I'm definitely going to be picking up this. I think it's called The Making of Karateka. I'm definitely getting it the moment it launches, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. It looks sick as hell. And I just love learning about stuff like this. You know, anything like as far as video games go, like every facet, every individual creation of video games, every generation of console, it all fascinates me. And just to see as far back as 1984, a game implementing a form of rotoscoping with 8-bit graphics is so cool. That is just so cool to me. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. It's basically wrapped up. I'm just praising it. But it looks really cool. And, yeah, that's it. We're going to be moving on to the next thing now. Do you guys like video game soundtracks? I do. I think that they really stand out as a form of art on their own. And I think that they can very much be compared easily to a movie soundtrack. Sometimes you have to convey different emotions and have different types of beats to them to convey what's happening visually on screen. And I always thought that was so much harder for a game to do because of its interactivity. And so video game music has always been something I consider to be some of the greatest types of music around. I don't think there's been a game I've ever played that didn't have good video game music, unless it was a game I played and didn't like. And back in the day, Konami had some banal soundtracks, okay? Like the game could suck ass. The game could be the worst thing on the planet, but the soundtrack would be, it'd be great. So this announcement is saying that 9 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games released by Konami, the soundtracks of those games will be released on vinyl, CD, and VHS. And if there's one thing I love, it's when physical releases of video game music happen. It doesn't happen often. It was not very popular, but I still think that more game companies should do this. It is really cool, and I am totally in support of this. There were some banal soundtracks in there, and these games specifically have some really good music. So just to see them be released on these 3 different types of media forms, I guess, is really fun. I actually used to have a vinyl player. I don't know if I had it anymore. My mom bought it because she wanted to buy some records, but I think we lost it, which is sad because if I had the money, I'd pick this up. Like, vinyl to me is so... I find it cool how people to this day still make vinyl. There's really no reason to. We have much better ways of making music. But it's always been interesting to me how this technology has persisted. Even not in a mainstream fashion, I still find it interesting that there are still people who collect vinyl to this day. And honestly, I can't blame them. Vinyl is fucking badass. It's cool, man. You get this massive black record, you get this nice box art. And this is really cool to me. I really do think that more games should release those soundtracks on vinyl in general. Of course, I'm just happy for any physical release of video game music, but vinyl releases are always fun. And seeing as how some of the music from these games are just like famous, like you could just play them and people would know them, I think it's really cool that they're getting a physical release. I don't believe they've had one before, at least not to this scale. So I'm really excited about this. I'm probably not going to pick it up myself, but this is absolutely something that I want to see more of. I want to see more video game companies and video game developers, musicians. I want to see their music be released in a physical format for people to enjoy. Because I really do think, especially with games like Konami, like music like that can be enjoyed even when you're not playing the game. You can't say that for everything, of course, but I really do think that we should see video game music as an art form in itself. It's not just something made for the game. It takes hours and hours and hours of commitment and hard work. And to see these get re-released in a vinyl format, in a physical format, is really cool. I think more companies should do this. It's great stuff. And this is honestly, like, I don't think I've played that many TMNT games, but this looks really cool. So again, major props to Limited Run. Like, we're already off to a great start here. Now, this next announcement is very vague. It's very, very vague, and there's actually not that much info about it. Basically, there are going to be 2 new games developed in conjunction. Sorry, I forget rules. That might not even be a rule. Basically, Limited Run is collaborating with The Mix, which I don't know much of. I think they might be a game engine or something. I'm sorry. I guess you could say I'm out of The Mix. Anyways, these 2 games are going to be focused on classic cartoons from the 90s. Now, they didn't reveal what these cartoons are, but we do know a little about them. First of all, since this is supposed to be taking place in the first E3, it would be in 1995, because the guy there even says, you back in 1995 are going to be very familiar with these commercials, which could be saying that, hey, these cartoons have been out are at least present in the year 1995, so nothing 1996 in higher. So, that limits it down. Of course, though, the thing I'm worried about is there are very good 90s cartoons, and there's some 90s cartoons that kind of suck. So we're going to have to see. But I do think that 90s cartoons as a whole was a really good time for animation, and I'm very excited to see what these games are. I might not pick them up myself. It depends what game they might be based on, but this could be really exciting. We could be seeing some classic Nicktoons, maybe some other stuff. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to be patient. And since this is such a vague thing, and that's all the information they give us, I really can't talk about this for more than 2 minutes. That's all I have to say in the matter. It sounds like a good time, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Sometimes, releases to promote the show are made from another property are always the best thing, but this sounds like a fun thing, and we're gonna have to wait and see, but I'm hoping that this is gonna be a really fun, I hope they choose some good cartoons, but we're just gonna have to wait and see, and that's really all I have to say about it, so let's just move on to the next one. I know nothing about Shantae. I know nothing about this character at all. All I know is that certain people like her for her physical attributes, which is somewhat understandable. However, something I always love seeing is when games get canceled, canned, thrown away, and then they come back in some fashion. It is my personal opinion that every piece of art form ever made should be put out, developed, and published in some manner for people to see. I think that people who spend their lives and years and months working on these projects should have something to show to it, should publish it so the world can see it, judge it, so they can at least get that out there no matter the reception. And I always hate when games get canceled, especially so late in developments, because it just sucks to see something that people worked on passionately for so long just get canned. However, the reason why I want to talk about this one is, even though I know nothing about Shantae, a Game Boy Advance game getting canned in 2002 and coming back 20 years later to be released on the Game Boy Advance is really cool. That's really neat. I mean, seriously, they talk about it here that they weren't happy with the product and that the original Shantae game, while it got good reviews, did not have the retail to show why there would be a profitable amount of money from the first one. But the Shantae series has grown. It's pretty popular now. And so, with the collaboration between Limited Run Games, they were able to finish developing this game. I hope that everyone on the original team was in some way present here. I just feel really bad if anyone who was working on the 2002 version got left out here. But I know nothing about Shantae. I don't know, is it a franchise I should get into? Comment down below if it is. I don't know. Subscribe, hit that notification button, whatever. But anyways, I absolutely love this. The fact that this game that was canned forever ago, just because they weren't happy with the state of it, now gets to see a true release of it. And it's really fun. So it's going to be releasing on the Game Boy Advance. They should have been played on the Game Boy Advance SP. They might have meant that. I'm pretty sure that Game Boy Advance SP can play Game Boy Advance games. I don't know. It's been a while. But the thing I like the most about this is during this, they show that the game is multiplayer and you can play it with link cables, which is kind of funny. I mean, seriously, they're developing this game in 2022, 2023, and the multiplayer option is not going to be local, it's not going to be online, it's going to be fucking link cables. I mean, you guys have to realize it is kind of funny. we are in 2023, and there's going to be a mainline, well, maybe not a mainline game. Well, it was a direct sequel, so I guess it is. A mainline Shantae game release, and the only way to have multiplayer is through link cables. One thing I also like is that you only need one copy of the game, and that the link cables will all connect and send throughout that. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the reasons why I never liked link cables is because most times you'd have to have full copies of the same game, full Game Boys, 3 full link cables. I don't know. I don't have a Game Boy myself. And that was like, come on, dude. But the idea that all you need is one copy of this game, some link cables, and some buddies is great. They even showed being played on the Analog Pocket, a third-party software release for Game Boy games, I believe, that can play all the way from the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance SP. And that's great. The fact that we can use third-party software, I got like some weird noise in my ear, I don't know. I might be dying. But I think that's great, the fact that this game can be played via link cables on third-party software, almost as if it's still released back then, you know? All you need is your Game Boys, you get some link cables, you get one copy of the game, and you're in business. I'm very excited about this. I may not pick it up myself because I'm not very familiar with this franchise, but I think it's great that this game has seen a release at all. I mean, seriously, this game has seen a full release, and it was canned 2 decades ago. Nearly, like, a fourth of a century. I think that's great. And I am for this, dude. I hate when games get canned and nothing comes of them. People put their whole work into games like this and they absolutely deserve to be seen. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And I just hope that the game is good. I hope people enjoy it. Because, like, this looks really cool. That's all I can say about it. It just looks really cool and neat. One thing I always say to myself, because I can't tell really anyone else, is that if there is a multiverse, there is definitely a universe where the CDI took off and full motion video was implemented in video games indefinitely. I really do believe that while the technology was definitely somewhat primitive back then, it was such a thing to see. Like, oh my god, that's an actual human being's face on my video game console. I do believe that full motion video and CDI really could have been the future of gaming if it just was better, I guess. Now, like, I'm not complaining. I mean, honestly, gaming might be worse, but I really do believe that if the CDI had gone as intended, it been developed fully, and if the games that came out on it were good, that full motion video games would be much more mainstream. And you know, everyone knows that there were 3 CDI games made that were that had Nintendo properties, and 2 of them are Zelda games. Now, if you've been on YouTube for more than like 7 years, probably more about 10 if we want to be honest here, you know about at least 2 of them. So there were 2 Zelda games that were released. I forget the names of them, but they were kind of goofy, and they kind of built up this cult classic following because of their inherent goofiness. And you know, it was definitely a real thing. So CDI, the technology, the design, it really was so bizarre back then. And I think that's why Nintendo definitely pulled the plug after all those games came out, as far as their deal with Philips and the CDI. But in this in this announcement, we get something very special. A spiritual successor to those Zelda games called I honestly forget. I forget the name. Of course, you have to understand these are new characters. They can't use Zelda characters. They can't use any other characters they used in the past, or else they get a lawsuit. Because these are not made by the same crew of people. It is more of an homage to that era of gaming, and to those games specifically. You know, there's some very good stuff in here. We get to see cutscenes that look directly out of this stuff. We got Mushu. We got what's his name? Am I just being stupid? Ganondorf. You know, we got these characters that kind of look similar and act similar, but just like this homage, this, I guess, like this very cool homage to these games. And these games definitely weren't the best games ever made, but they did do something different at the time that no one else did. They tried something new. And to see a game that's just basically those games, but, you know, obviously not without the Zelda property, is really cool. I never thought a game like this would ever release in the current climates of gaming. I really never thought that. I never did. I never thought that in the year 2023, we get an announcement of a CDI game, spiritual successor, Jesus, sorry, my voice died, spiritual successor to those Zelda games. And to see this, it is fascinating. It evokes something in me I have never felt before in my life. I am picking this up day one. It looks great. It captures the humor of those old games very well. And it just looks like a shit ton of fun. Excuse my language. It really does. It has a lot of personality. And it's definitely not trying to just be a shameless rehash for people who will buy it. This game looks so fascinating. And it's really cool to see a game based off these games that no one likes really, but some people kind of like, to be released, because those games, they did something different. They tried something. And while what they did is not popular, it's not considered good by the masses, it was something new and it was experimental. So to see that be brought back in 2023 in a game that just seems to be this massive homage, it's really cool, you know? The game, you know, it looks fun. It looks fun. You get your animated cutscenes. You get your gameplay that looks a lot better than the animated cutscenes. It looks like a lot of fun. It captures that style and essence of those games very well. People have already started making YouTube poops using just the trailer for this. It is already that iconic to this group of people. And I'm just so excited. I am picking this up day one. Honestly, this looks like a lot of fun. And I think people really forget that the CDI, while being a massive flop, showed kind of what would and wouldn't work in the gaming industry. At least as far as personal opinion goes, most people did not like the CDI. A lot of people say it's a bad console. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet. I plan on some point in the far-flung future. But this game looks like just an homage to what came before it. It just looks like a boatload of fun, and I'm picking it up day one. I know that this is a very long segment about what is essentially YouTube poop fuel, but it really looks so much fun. I'm gonna pick it up, absolutely. And, like, I really don't think people realize, like, it's always cool to see a game that takes inspiration from something and brings back a stylization that hasn't been seen in 3 decades. And I think that's one of the reasons why this game might end up doing decently for the people that know about it. I mean, you're bringing back the stylization of game that wasn't popular. The stylization of game, this gameplay style, this gameplay art style that wasn't popular back then, isn't popular now, and hasn't been seen in 30 years. That's very interesting, and I think they're going to take it and run with it. If I were you, I'd look out for this game. I'm going to put up the title on screen some point in this long-ass segment. But I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this one. This one's a big one. This one's one of the big ones. So we're just going to move on now. And, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I'm just going to keep saying that. Because I don't know how to say stuff. I'm not going to write it. Listen. Okay, if you can't tell, I don't write scripts out for this shit. I just fucking wing it. I talk about what I want to talk about. So I kind of rant on. And when I can't find the right words, I know I've been reiterating the same statements over and over again. I apologize for that. My videos might get better if I just do it for longer. That's why I started deciding to make videos again. Because I want to be a YouTuber, but I'm not very good at this. So I just want to keep doing it. Because you can't wait until you're good at something if you never do it. I have to practice. And this is something I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about it. This is not a game I thought I'd ever cover on this channel. This game, hold up, let me readjust the camera. that better? That's a little bit better. This game is I don't know what to say about it. It's definitely an experience. If you know about it, then you know it's quite a doozy. This game is called Plumbo's Joint Wheel Ties, and it was released. I forget when it was released. Sometime in the 90s. Now, this is one of the weirdest games. They talk about it and describe it as a visual novel, which I guess is the closest thing you can describe it to. But basically, this game is kind of like a choose your story type deal. You get a few options, and every time you choose an option, it changes up the story slightly. It's bizarre, it's strange, it's outright absurd, and it would never be something you'd see published today, but we're getting a definitive edition of it. I never thought this game would ever see the light of day again. I never thought this would be re-released. You see it on ROMs, emulators, maybe you get like an original copy. I never thought that this would ever make its way onto a I don't know, I'm not sure if they said there would be a physical release, but it's just an odd game. I never thought I'd have to talk about it. The game itself wasn't necessarily popular when it came out. Very few people knew of it. But back in the early 2000s, a few people covered it. I can only think of one, which is James Rolfe, Cinemassacre, James Rolfe, aka Cinemassacre, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, talks about what can be considered bad video games. His videos are really good, even his earlier stuff. I think it's great. He's a great guy. His content to this day is still fun and enjoyable. Go check out Cinemassacre if you haven't. He actually appears here and talks briefly about it. And this game is so weird. I can't say it's bad because I can't say what's necessarily bad about it, but I can't say it's good because there's not anything necessarily good about it. It's just a strange experience. So this new release of the game is going to have archival footage. It's going to have all types of documentary type stuff. It's going to tell the story of how the game got made. It's going to tell the story of maybe how the game got popular. It's going to talk about the opinions of it. It's going to have all new features. It looks like it's going to even have another game in it called Plumb the Depths, which is not something like just the small segment we saw of this depth plumbing. Did not look like anything in the original game. So it is an odd game, but I'm telling you what, if it wasn't for limited run, I don't think there would be any chance in hell we'd be getting a sort of legacy version of this game with, all this archival footage and documentary type stuff and all these new and removed features from the original version. So I am glad that this bizarre piece of media is getting a release. I think, Plumbo's Joint Wheel Ties might not have had a big impact in the gaming industry, but I do think it is a unique piece of history to what could be considered video games. And I'm glad that people who don't know anything about it, that are probably about my age, are going to be finding out about it for the first time. Because this game is really bizarre and just kind of hilarious in all their own ways. So I'm glad it's coming out, and I'm glad that this is happening. I didn't know about this. Apparently they said they've announced it before this whole large spiel of gaming announcements, but I didn't know. And now that I know, I'm pumped, dude. I might not pick it up myself, but it's going to be really fascinating to see. And that's all I have to say about this game. Again, I don't want to talk much about it because you really have to experience it yourself. It's that type of game. No explanation I can do can do it justice. You can either go watch the AVGN episode of it, or you could get a copy of it somewhere, either online or at a thrift store if they still exist. I don't remember. I think this might have been released for the 3DO or it had to have been the 3DO, surely. I think that's a sign to move on to the next thing here. So let's just move on. Let's just keep the ball rolling. This video's gonna be fucking ages long, anyways. Over the years, the Mario franchise has spanned from tons of genres. Classic arcade games, you get the highest score. We've had platformers, many a platformer, 3D platformers, we've had pinball, sports games, but something that, while to the most mainstream Mario fans might not always be the most evident thing, The oldest Mario fans seem to always remember this game. I have very little experience with it, but I have played it via emulator before. Nintendo, please don't sue me. I have no money. I am but a lonely child. Anyways, I'm going to talk about the Super Mario RPG, something of the Seven Stars, I believe. Sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head. This game was developed by, I believe, Square Enix back in the days of Super Nintendo. And while being a very bizarre game, and just really weird as far as Mario games, like, you could take Mario and all the Nintendo characters out of this, and it'd still just be strange, because, well, it wouldn't be strange. I guess what I'm saying is, all of these games, these RPG tone-based games, they have a very special way of storytelling, and the way Square Enix did it with this Mario game, it's just kind of weird. Like, it's not, if you're gonna play it for the first time, I'm telling you, like, it does not, like, you very quickly realize it's not a normal Mario game, as far as, like, gameplay, storytelling, but it's still a good game. Like I said, I've played it before, not for that long, but I have definitely played it, and from what little I've played, I know that it is a bona fide classic by many, and at the very least, a pretty good, fun game. I'm not a big fan of RPG tone-based games, not because I don't like them, I just don't, I have never played one all the way throughout. I was gonna try that, Project Triangle strategy, or whatever it was, that came out when it was announced on the Twitch Direct. I might still pick that up. I mean, Nintendo Direct, sorry. But, this game was so important to people. And recently, if you watch the newest Nintendo Direct, you'd know that this game is getting a remake. I was trying to find the right word. Remaster is not right. This is a remake, made from the ground up. And it looks all fun and good, and I'm glad that there's a remake of this game. People are going to experience this game for the very first time, and it's going to be a lot of good fun. However, the first game elicited a sort of stylization and storytelling that had never been implemented before. And the way it told its story was both funny and very well done. I think that game really has aged better than some people give it credit for. So, the game we're talking about here is not a Mario game, limited run. I guess Nintendo doesn't look for the small people like them. It is a game called Another Crusade, which is heavily inspired by Mario RPG. Like, I'm not saying that the game straight up rips on it. What I'm saying is that Another Crusade is almost like a homage to the original game. It looks like a bunch of fun. It looks like Mario RPG. The stylization, the characters, some of the little speech bubbles we see, the comedy is very much Mario RPG-ish. And so it's like this brand new game and the stylization of Mario RPG released in 2023. It looks like a boatload of fun. I'm not going to pick it up myself because I don't play RPG games. But this looks like fun. It's called Another Crusade. We don't know much about it, but from what they've shown us, it's going to be, primarily a game that's just going to be focused on, RPG stuff. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, this game, like I said, it's very heavily inspired. I'm going to put, they gave us some cover art. I'm going to put that side by side to the Mario RPG cover art. Legend of the Seven Stars, is that what it was? I don't remember. But anyways, essentially, what I'm saying is that it's very cool that in the same year we get an announcement of a remake of that game and an homage, a sort of like passing of the torch to that stylization. I'm not saying that there's going to be like a huge franchise, but this game looks it looks fun. It looks fun. And I'd go check it out if you're into turn-based RPG games and are a big fan of the Mario RPG back in the 90s. I mean, it's a great game, and this looks like it takes itself very seriously as far as the product it's trying to deliver. It looks like it's trying to deliver a quality game, and it just looks like a lot of fun. So go ahead, check it out. Like I said, go watch the video for yourself. And if you're into that type of storytelling, that type of like hub world gameplay stylization, I think this is a game you'd really enjoy. The next game I want to talk about is a game that I believe was just announced for this panel, I guess. I really don't know what to call it. It's called Double Shake. And one thing I always love about video games is art style. I believe art style can heavily influence a game. There's nothing wrong with realistic games, but something about cartoony, almost like different graphics that were not realistic, so of their own stylization and way to display characters is really fun, you know? Like I always enjoy that. Like there's nothing wrong with a realistic game with realistic looking people, but I always enjoy when games took a more, I don't know, fun approach to their character design. And there's a franchise I've been meaning to get into for the better part of like 7 years now. I'm just that lazy and haven't done it. And that's the Klonoa series. The only reason I ever wanted to get into it is because on one of my old Wii games, on the back of it, there was an ad for a Klonoa game. And I just, because of the weird ass kid I stared at it for hours. As a kid, I stared at like everything for hours. I don't know why, I was just fascinated looking at like every scrape and scratch and texture on that like back part. And that ad for that game always stuck out to me. And so this game called Double Shake is heavily influenced by games like the Klonoa franchise. And the other games it talks about, I sadly don't have experience with. I think I've heard of one of them before, that being Tumba. But I don't know, I mean, listen, I know little, very little about Klonoa. But I know, like, incrementally less about the other games. So I'm not going to be talking about it. Now, I don't know much about this Double Shake game, but it just looks really cool. I'm going to pick it up. The art style is neat, it's stylized, it's low poly. I think that games should stop trying to have like the best graphics. That's something I've been hating in gaming for a while now. The final product itself should just be a fun experience and shouldn't be like the best looking thing on the planet. That's not to say that I don't like good graphics, but I love when games take a artistic, stylized approach to those storytelling. I don't know. I almost like it better. I actually no, I do. I like it better than uh like high poly, high textures, ray tracing, stuff like that. I think that games with a good art style, they just look loads better than games with good graphics, in my opinion. And that's my opinion. Don't go harass people because of my opinion. It's not like what the developers of this game are saying. I guess what I'm trying to say. But this game looks like a lot of fun. I don't know much about it except for what they showed us, and I'm not going to talk about it too much about terms of what gameplay they showed us because again, you should be watching that video instead of watching this one. So if you haven't watched that one already, I'm not going to talk about that one. So that way I'm trying to get people to watch that video. Basically, is what I'm saying. And that's all I have to say about this one because I don't know much about it, and I don't want to talk about the gameplay stuff in there. You should really go check it out for yourself. But like in my head, I have thousands of thoughts about this game because it just looks like a lot of fun. I'm definitely gonna pick it up day one if I can. I don't know about you guys, but I always hated horror movies as a kid. And I always told my mom, I don't see the point in it. I don't see the point in going to a cinema and then having nightmares for weeks. And she'd look at me and she'd always go, I agree. I think it's stupid. And I still to this day don't like horror movies. I think that they're cheap, the plots often suck, the story sucks, and I think that overall, there aren't many very good horror movies. There are some bona fide classic horror movies, but I didn't really like them. And horror has never really been a genre I was into. But as a kid, that changed when I discovered indie horror games. You see, as a kid, I did not like scary things. But for some reason, I liked scary things when they were being experience with someone else. So I'd watch other people play through scary games and such. And that's how I discovered indie horror. The reason why I switched to indie horror more than like big budget horror games made by established studios is because they always felt not as scary to me. They always felt less stylized, less like decent. I don't know. They almost felt more like tight and not as fun and free-flowing. I think a horror game should not be so generic because the entire idea of horror is to scare you in some unexpected way. And the horror games genre as a whole would not have been the same without a little game called Clock Tower that came out on the Super Famicom in Japan back in the 90s. Now, this game is a fucking timeless classic. It really pushed the horror genre of gaming to that extra level. It really did. It really emphasized what a good horror game could look like. And I do not believe that the horror games genre as a whole would be nearly as good without it. That being said, the game was only released in Japan, and it has never been released in any other country. And that always hurt me a lot as an American. I always wanted to go play this game. I wanted to check it out. But I don't speak Japanese, and I don't have a computer with good enough to ROM to play that game. I can't get a good ROM hack for it, is what I'm saying, and get it translated to Japanese. And again, I don't like ROM hacks. Like, they're fun. Well, ROM hacks. I don't like ROMs. Sorry, ROM hacks are cool. Because, like, ROMs are cool. It's good to experience games on a PC that you don't have access to, but I like collecting physical releases of games. And Clock Tower has been on my list of games to play for, over half a decade now. But there's not a release of it in America, or in England, or anywhere else but Japan. And it's never been re-released. So, to see this announcement, which is basically them packaging out and selling a physical copy of that game available to whoever wants to buy it, is fun. I'm gonna pick it up like day one. This is a game I've wanted to experience for years, and I've tried to keep as much knowledge out of it as possible. I've tried to stay with almost no knowledge of the game because I want to experience it myself. And now that it's getting a physical release, a remake, well, maybe not a remake, a remaster, legacy, as they put it in it, they said that they like to set off the legacy product with some new features, or have them in splits. And this game, I think, is that important to the genre of horror games as a whole, and I really want to check it out. Honestly, if this plays cleanly, smoothly, and has no issues with it, I'm all on board with this Corbin engine they've been playing with for a bit now. I'm for it, dude. I love Clock Tower. With what little I know about it and what I've seen of it, it looks like a lot of fun. I want to experience the game for myself, but I've never had the opportunity to, because I don't think there's ever been a re-release of it even in Japan. Correct me if I'm wrong, please do. But to see that game get a release, a physical release on modern systems, I was just so happy. I still am happy. I love this game a lot with what little I know about. Like I said, I try to keep out of it as much as possible, so I don't know too much about it. But I've wanted to check it out. It's on my list. And to say that now I have a way of doing so without just downloading a ROM of it that has subtitles in a language that I can speak, so I don't have to use Google Translate. And yes, there's probably ROM hacks that have good dubs to see, but again, I like physical releases. I'm a big fan of physical copies, so I'm glad that I have the opportunity to play this game now in my native language, which is English, obviously, and I'm glad to be able to play this game. It really is a masterpiece. With what little I know about it, I'm already blown away by it. And that technology, a horror game for the Famicom, the Super Famicom, the SNES, that was that tense, that thrilling. I mean, horror games as a whole, this is pioneering that industry, and I want to check it out. So to hear that one of my all-time on the list of games to play before I kick the bucket is getting a physical release in modern era in more than just Japan is really cool. I'm really excited to give this game a try. And this is just super cool. This game is super important, and it changed horror gaming as a whole forever. So I'm so excited that I have the opportunity to play this game. So massive ups to the people working on it at Corbin Engine and whatever else. Massive ups to Limited Run. If they announced this themselves, I'd worship them for eternity. I'm glad that I get the experience to play this game because I never have had the opportunity to before. It's not even a thing about money or something. I can now get a physical release in my language that I can understand. I'm stoked, dude. I am super stoked. And I'm definitely going to get that day one. Guaranteed. I don't care. I'll sell the cat if I have to. I'm joking. I never sell the cat. I'd rent them out, like how you can rent a babysitter or Big Brother and big sister or whatever. Like just like a person who wants to patch, just rent them out for a couple weeks. Like I'm honestly like I'm stoked for this game release. I am stoked. I am excited as fuck because this game is really cool, and I'm so glad that it is getting a release. Just in general, it's so cool to see this game resurface in any format. People talk about it. It's not a forgotten game. It's not a forgotten masterpiece. People talk about this game. So it's really cool to see that this game finally gets the recognition it deserves, and that people who've never played before, know nothing about it, are going to go check it out. It's really, really cool to me that that's going to happen. So let's just move on, because I've talked about this too long. That game I talked about earlier that I said nothing about, Tomba, well, it actually looks like they're going to be re-releasing that using the Coven engine. And I know nothing about this, but based off what they showed us, it seems to be a combination of 2D animation, really old, like 90s, 2000s CGI, and some really cool stylization. So this is going to be a really short segment. It's going to be like maybe a minute, 30 seconds long. But basically, just based off what I've seen, this looks like fun. I might not check it out, I might not, but I thought it was worth bringing up. If you know anything about Tomba, and if that is exciting to you, I just thought maybe you should know about that. That's really all I have to say. So let's just move on to the next segment. This is going to be the last segment I'm talking about, because it's also the last segment of this video that they uploaded on their channel. Go check out the video down below. Big shout out to Limited Run Games for this awesome announcement. Now, not that many people are very familiar with the history of gaming, and I think that's a shame because it's downright interesting. A lot of things that just don't stick happen. Like sometimes things that most people don't know about happened, and they were a very big part of the gaming industry. During the 90s, a lot of new companies tried to make their own gaming consoles. They were seeing the money it could generate, the revenue, and they were in for it. But the thing was, in the 90s, most video game consoles had some sort of mascot. Nintendo had Mario. Sonic was Sega's, So this console came out. I believe it was the 3DO. Don't hold me. I think it was the 3DO this time. I don't really remember. It might have been on the Sega CD. I don't know. But a lot of games in the 90s were basically designed to be a mascot character. These companies would run up to game devs and say, hey, if you make a game, this game, the main character of your game will be the mascot for all company as a whole. And so there were tons of these characters made. Most of them flopped. Tons of them flopped. I'll put some up on screen right now. Some of the flopped video game mascots that most people don't talk about or don't know of. I'll just flash them on screen. Maybe not flash them. I don't know anything. I don't know enough about epilepsy to know what would trigger it, because there's different forms of it and stuff. I'll just throw a collage of them together and put it up on screen. But basically, one of them failed. One of them was not good. I think it was it for the CD? Was it for the Sega CD or was it for the 3DO? I don't know. Maybe it got ported. Anyways, one of these was a character named Gex. Now, Gex was a gecko, I think, and that's where the name comes from. And Gex, the first Gex game, is considered to be, well, it's actually really mixed. A lot of people say it's a really good game. A lot of people say it's dog shit. And honestly, I haven't played it. I've seen people play it. I don't know enough about it. Now, from what little I know of Gex, I believe this is right. If I'm wrong, and if someone watches this video, if anyone does, please talk in the comments, say, hey, you're absolutely fucking wrong, you idiot. Don't use those words though, please. I'm very sensitive, and I will cry if you do that. Please be nice to me. But anyways, Gex, the games of Gex are basically him going through different movies, like parodies of movies, and doing stuff. That's basically it. You go through you're just parodying. I don't know what came out of my mouth. Parodying. What the fuck? Parody. basically the Gex games, you'd play through parodies of different movies and go through funny sequences based on films. Yeah, I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen that stuff before, like when you're watching like a B-list movie, and then something happens like, oh, hey, it's like that one movie, and then it turns into a comical sequence and kind of mocks the film. That was Gex. At least I believe it is. Again, tell me if I'm wrong. And Gex, although failed, had a fair amount of sequels. Like, I failed in many different ways. That didn't mean that the game itself was bad. There was just a lot of issues. But Gex did get a few more games. And he kind of faded into obscurity after that. People still know of him. People still talk about him. He's still memed on. But for the most part, he's all but disappeared from the face of gaming. And, I mean, that's it. Gex is gone, right? I mean, like, I didn't think there'd be another Gex game, and this isn't that. But they've announced, I believe, is also them using this Coben engine to remaster these Gex games into a collection of games, a trilogy of games, I believe. Now, this is a really big deal because even though Gex failed in so many ways, Gex is also a pretty popular character among the internet for some reason. I think that overall, this is the right move. I think that overall, bringing Gex back in 2023 for a trilogy is going to introduce a lot of new people to him, to that style of gameplay. It's going to introduce a lot of new people to that character, to that mascot, and to those games as a whole. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. After all of these announcements, right? I mean, we got Clock Tower, we got Gex Trilogy, we got 90s cartoon games coming down the pipelines. We got, what else we got here? We got a game based off the Klonoa series. We got let's see what else. We got a CDI game. I'm just saying, if this is what the face of gaming is without E3 in 2023, I'm just saying, maybe E3 should go. Because honestly, I'm being completely honest here, I have a thorough belief that every announcement here is more creative and more stylized than would have been shown at E3. I mean, honestly, like, listen, nothing against these developers who are working hard, but I swear to God, I'm going to turn into E3 next year, or whenever it happens again, I'm going to see another goddamn Call of Duty game. Like, again, nothing against the developers of Call of Duty. It's just, I'm tired of the gaming industry right now. Like, it's not overall bad. There's a lot of good aspects about it, but as, like, the most mainstream AAA games right now kind of suck. I mean, like, honestly, I'm being completely honest. Like first-person shooters, I believe, have tanked in quality because people are rushing them out so quickly. And that's not really the developer's fault. That's mostly the publisher. But I'm tired of seeing these CG trailers and not seeing anything creative. There's nothing wrong with good graphics and stuff. But one of the reasons I always pulled more away from them is because it seems that these companies are making an exchange for good graphics for good gameplay. And to me, that's always been problematic, because if you want to see good graphics, just go watch a movie. I mean, it's like I'm already there, dude. It's like I'm there with all the movie stars. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, as a whole, I think that E3 is a very tired thing. I think ever since like 2013, E3 has been much more about things I don't really like. Like, it doesn't mean that, I mean, listen, I haven't watched every E3. I really have not. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I've watched every E3 that's come out in the past, like, 3-5 years, and I'm disappointed. I actually am. It's usually good, it's usually, like, good graphics, CG trailer, announcement to a popular video game franchise, or something else, and then, like, stuff to fill in the blanks. And to me, it just feels like E3 has become a lot less about creativity and more about technology, which is fine. I mean, it's an electronic entertainment expo, right? That's what E3 is. But I'm just tired of seeing all these things that just, like, they have this big reveal and then they fail. And I think that it's not to say that these parts are bad, but I think that what video games have been lacking is creativity and fun, right? Like, you don't always need to tell a meaningful story in gaming. Not to say that games with good stories are bad, but video games, to me, have always been a form of fun. They've always been something to do when I have free time, and they've been there for me. I mean, like one of the first games I ever played as a kid was Space Invaders, the first one, and that is just a fun game. You're just shooting aliens. There's no story. There's really nothing to get, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like the gaming industry as a whole right now. And I know it's overshot, the gaming industry sucks. And I don't think the entirety of the gaming industry sucks. I think that the mainline gaming industry, Xbox, like all those games coming out under these big AAA publishers, like they just don't look good. Like, listen, a AAA Spider-Man game looks great, but ultimately, after I knew about the game and all the story, and got to see all that gameplay and all this polish, it's just like, where's the fun? I mean, that game has great story, great graphics, great gameplay. It has the holy trinity, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like games are lacking something, and that's creativity, fun, and artistry. Like those games, I don't think you understand the amount of time it takes to model, texture, and render a single item in that game is massive. I mean, that is objectively a good game, right? I mean, like seriously. But I'm not shitting on Spider-Man. I'm just really bad at conveying my opinions. I just use shitty analogies. I guess what I'm saying is that the reason why I'm excited about this and not about any of the other E3s I've seen in the past 3 years is because I have a sense that talented people are behind it and not just robots. Because here's the thing, there's been talented people behind every release of every shitty game. Well, not all of them, but more recently, AAA games that come out that are shitty. Like Call of Duty Vanguard. That is a bad game. I don't play Call of Duty. I think that the game's kind of all bad. But I'm just saying, when the fan base, when the player count tanks that quickly, that's not a good sign. I'm just saying, Vanguard, the people behind Vanguard, there's some very talented people who have been in that industry for years. But indie publishers, indie developers, they aren't so tight with their creativity. They're more loose, I feel. And they have more of a sense of freedom. And it really seems like Limited Run is just publishing stuff that's fun, good, creative, and diverse. It doesn't look like the way they're turning away any projects. And as a whole, the reason why I'm so stoked after all these announcements is because all the ones I've talked about are ones that are fun and just, like, look good, honestly. Like, I've moved away from playing games. The only games I play from a company nowadays is Nintendo games. I mean, like, honestly. That's the, like, I didn't get the Xbox One. I don't have the PlayStation. That's all I get Nintendo games. Nintendo games still give me that kick. And, like, I know, Nintendo evil, bad, but I don't know. Like, the thing I like about Nintendo is that they still make their own games. Xbox, I don't think Xbox ever really did, except for, like, Halo doesn't count. Halo was made by Bungie. It just released on Xbox. And then Xbox, yeah, okay. I guess it's like, I feel the reason why Nintendo games are so funny is because they're still made by the company. The company themselves is creative, instead of, like, limiting the third-party publishers making a game. So I think, I know I'm really shitty. Throw away everything I said. How about that? Everything I've said in the past, like, 7 minutes, throw that away, because it sounds, like, really shitty, and people are going to get bullied online because of it if anyone ever watches this video. Basically, basic laid out is what I'm trying to say, is that the reason why I'm so excited after this announcement is because all of these games look like they're made by young, inspired, and fun people, and all these re-releases, everything. It just looks like it's a very fun era of gaming, right? Like, these games are inspired. They are made by people who are fans of these games, and I just feel that newer games that come out, they almost seem soulless. Not because they are soulless, but because they just seem to lack a sort of pride. And these games feel so prideful. Like, I can really just get this feeling of the people who made these games poured their hard work, love, and inspiration into it. And it really shows. And I just feel, as a whole, when you're making, like, the 13th Call of Duty game, there's not much inspiration you can throw into it, because the franchise of Call of Duty has already been pretty heavily cemented over the years. Same thing with Halo. I love Halo Infinite. I think Halo Infinite's a great game. And I know that's not the most popular opinion, but I think it's a great game. However, It's the same problem with Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite tries new things with the Halo franchise, but overall, the storytelling and visual style of Halo has been so heavily cemented over the past 2 decades that it's not something new. And the thing is, Halo, Call of Duty, big. So when E3 comes around, if there's a Halo or Call of Duty announcement, it's going to be that. It's going to be, oh, look, new Halo game. I was as excited for Halo Infinite as everyone else. But these things have got me more stoked because they own a part of a franchise that's been around for 3 decades, although a re-release of a franchise that's been around for 3 decades. They're showing people what you can do with creativity because a lot of these games, the ones that aren't re-releases, are heavily inspired and have taken storytelling elements from different parts of things that these people probably grew up with. And it just looks like a lot of fun because these games aren't set in stone how their gameplay is going to be. The reason, I guess, is what I'm trying to say is the reason why I'm excited for these games is the difference is that instead of something that's already so hard cemented, that's like, oh boy, another Call of Duty game, it's, oh boy, look at this new experience I've never played before, know nearly nothing about, looks like so much fun. I'm going to pick it up day one. And that's why I made this video. The reason why I'm so excited for these limited run announcements is because it doesn't look so stiff. Everything looks energetic, alive. You can see these synergies clashing of the different types of games in this announcement. They're different. We got different genres, different outsiders, different storytelling, different developers. It is a diverse collection of announcements. And so honestly, limited run, I don't know anything about you guys, but if this is what you guys get up to, I'm for it, dude. I'm like for it. If this is what you guys publish, sell, produce, remaster or remake, if this is like the whole gist of your company, I love you guys. This video has really got me pumped. It's just in this era of gaming where everything seems so contrived and cynical, this just looks like something fun. And I'm just glad because like I'm glad that this is gaining traction. I mean, I think this video has like millions of views now, maybe like only a few 100,000. But I think it's important to remember that the gaming community as a whole, it's not really a community. I mean, like, think about it. The gaming, I always have to compare gaming and TV to kind of get a sense of what I try to mean. We're like, just because you watch shit tons of TV doesn't mean that if you meet someone else who likes shit ton of TV, you won't necessarily get along with your tastes because there's such a diverse range of different media to digest. And I think that's what's so exciting about this. We got stuff all across the board here. We don't just get first-person shooter. Like, we don't just get, like, the same type of game, the same basic, contrived, like, boring, stiff gameplay that we've known for 30 years. That doesn't mean it's bad, but I think it's time for something new in the gaming industry. And to see all these people jump into the ring and show what they've been working on very hard and have been throwing their time into, I think is really cool. So, again, I'm not really good at this stuff. I really suck at talking in general, on camera especially. Like, I'm decent at it off camera, but I don't know. I have no clue. But ultimately, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, this looks fun. That's all I have to say about it. It's just, in today's world, we have become such a cynical people. We complain about everything, every little detail. Oh, there's this bug. Oh, there's this. But, like, I grew up with Xbox 360 in, like, 2015, and I played a lot of games from, like, 2008 and 2013 and, like, 2011 and stuff. Those games were some of the most buggy, glitchy, almost horrendous games to look at times. But I still love all of them because all of them I played offered a different palette of gameplay and taste. Sometimes they were goofy, and that was fun because I was having fun. I'm like, it's okay if a game's not a masterpiece. I just want to have fun, you know? And everything I've talked about today is just fun. It sounds like a good time. So please, if you haven't, check out the original video. The entire video is better than anything I've ever made in my life. Like, even just the video itself. It's fun, and I just think overall, you know, I just think it's, like, look out for these announcements, dude. Like, support these developers. Check out their companies, you know? Like, I think, like, honestly, I think that these newer companies, newer developer teams, all of this stuff, I think they could really be the key to the future in the sense of how gaming can kind of come out of this development hell of being rushed out by these rich publishers who are just trying to line their pockets. Because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing games that have so much potential get rushed out by these greedy developers. And I'm just so excited that we're going to get all these great games. Like, again, I haven't talked about them. There's like 5-7 things I haven't talked about. Go check those out. Like, everything I've talked about is stuff I like. Maybe that stuff is up your alley. You know? Maybe that is you written all over it. So please, if you haven't, go check it out. Like, honestly, there has to be something, though, that you would enjoy. I promise that. There's no way there isn't. That or your tastes are just way too confined. Please go check it out. That's it. Video over. Goodbye.